Hey,
David.
Fran, good morning.
How are you?
Couldn't be better. How are you?
I'm freezing. It's like a windstorm out there.
Is it? Yeah, it is
Oh
cold
my
today. Yeah.
God, so cold. I
Well,
just got into the office and it's like, oh my God.
we got
I,
lulled into a few nice days there, and
we
you know,
got spoiled is what
spring
happened.
is still here. That's correct.
I thought it was over.
Well, those of us who are gardeners know that the last frost date in this area in southern Connecticut, anyway, is May 1st,
Oh,
which tells
really?
you that you can still have a frost at the end of April. So there's a lot of weeks usually in March and April when, people are ready to break out the golf clubs and all that, but we're just not quite there yet. It's kind of up
I
and
I
down.
know. It was funny because I thought it was so early for it to be warm. I mean, we were
Yep.
walking around, everyone's walking around, no jackets, it was beautiful.
Yep.
And you know, it never lasts.
Yeah.
Doesn't last. So how's everything else? What's doing with
It's all
you?
good. Yep, it's
Good.
all good. There's a lot going on for CSC stuff. At home, I'm spending a lot of time taking care of my mom right now. She's deteriorating, she's got
Oh,
dementia and she needs a lot of help and care, and so
mm,
trying to manage that. And it's always an unpredictable situation. You get a call from the place that something happened, so you need to drop everything and go over there, and
yeah.
you have to go to the emergency room, and that's 8 hours, always at an inconvenient
It's
moment.
always and it's
Yeah,
always 8 hours. You
yeah,
know, I
correct.
I was there with my mom before she passed, and those last, even though she was wheelchair bound, it was very difficult because she had had the stroke prior, years. The dementia, once that
Yeah,
happens, or the Alzheimer's, it's so difficult, so
yeah,
difficult.
it's true. Yeah, and
Yeah, sorry you're
conditions
going
are
through that.
changing.
As a matter of fact, my mom would have been 101 today. She died last a year ago, November.
I say.
So I'm like, oh my God, 101. I mean, that's insane. So we always
Man.
go to this. My siblings and I, we always go on my parents' birthday. We always go. We bring flowers, we talk to them, and then we go for coffee. And that's like,
Mhm.
because that's what they would have done.
Yeah, sure.
So, so
Well,
after this, off
that's
I
as good a
go.
way to do it as any, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it is amazing how much longer people are living today. I mean, you do bump into quite a number of families where somebody's living well into their 90s or 100. I mean, that's not
Somebody
unheard.
I know, an agent, she just posted, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that her parent was 108.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, like you are starting to hear like 90 is getting to be the average. You
Right.
really hear so many people in their 90s and getting to 100. It's really crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
It's crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, my aunt is going to be 100 in 3 days, and I mean, she's really Alzheimer's. So that to me is sad when you're living that long life,
Yep.
but you really don't know what's going on, you
Yep.
know.
That's where my mom's getting right now. It's not a quality of life.
That's
She's
that's
there, she's comfortable, that's fine. She's not
yeah.
unhappy, but she's not really enjoying anything. She's
And it's
comfortable
really probably doesn't feel like your mom, you know what I mean? Because if
for
she's got
sure. I
yeah,
mean,
right.
she kind of had
That's the hard part. That's the hard part. Yeah.
yeah, she had kind of a mini stroke a couple of weeks ago, and so she lost some use of her hand, which has somewhat come back, but she can't really speak now. She can't remember any words. So she
Oh,
can't, if she starts a sentence, she always says like, "What did?" And then she can't remember the word after that. And so you
oh,
wait and you prompt her and you try to get her through the question, but she can't get it. And then she kind of loses it. And that's it. So yeah,
very
it's
sad. I'm sorry.
frustrating.
It's really
Sad to
difficult.
see.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's not
I'm
much you can
sorry.
do. It's
You
like
can't.
you want them to have a quality of life. You want them to be happy and enjoy
Right.
something, but
Right. And not in pain and nothing like that, but it's
right.
really difficult because that part, when they get to that stage, you can't, there's really nothing that can be done. That's the thing that gets me so frustrated. You can't do anything to really help their memory. You can't do anything to make them
Right.
remember who you are.
Yeah.
But she would think my brother was her father, her husband, or her son. It would
Correct.
go depending on the
Yes.
hour. It wasn't even the day. And no, he like couldn't take it. He's like, Mom, you and I'm like, stop correcting her. It's
Yep.
not gonna matter.
Yep.
Let
Yep.
her just let her just think it, let her just say it, let her
Yep.
just be.
That was happening with my mother-in-law. She was living with my brother-in-law, my wife's brother's family for a number of
Uh-huh.
years. And she kept mistaking this other woman in the apartment with them. It was his wife, of course. But, who was that other woman? Because she thought he was her husband, even though he was her son.
Oh
And
my
she was
God.
always asking, who is that other woman here? Why is she here?
It's
And
so
he kept
funny.
saying, that's my wife, and et cetera, et cetera. But I agree. There's no need to correct them because,
You can't correct them. I mean, sometimes, honestly, it was sad, but there was things that she would say when she was, because she could speak, but sometimes it was like crazy stories. And
yeah,
my sister and I afterward would be like, "Can you believe what she just said?" Like it would be funny, but
yeah,
my brother was like, "Correct, correct, correct, correct. Leave her alone. They're very amusing." Getting a kick
yeah,
out of her stories.
yeah,
Oh, it's so funny.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So now I'm telling all the stories and I'm just telling her the news and what's going
yeah,
on and that
that's
kind
what
of
you do. You
thing.
just tell her what's happening, and she's
Right.
gonna listen, and you know, and you're being a good son. That's all you could do.
Trying my best. Well,
Yeah.
you realize when you grow up and become a parent how much your parents did for you.
Oh, let
And,
me
you
tell
hate
you.
your parents when you're young. They don't know
Yeah,
anything. They're stupid
yeah,
or whatever. But once you
yeah,
have to start raising a kid and you do that for a number of years, you realize how much your parents had to do for you. And
exactly.
you
And
know
when
what?
you
I'll be
really,
like,
when they were like, you don't call me enough, and I don't see you enough. And now I'm like, you don't call me enough. I don't see you enough. I'm saying the same
yes.
thing.
Yeah. It's so true.
It's really true. It's like, oh God,
we think we know it
they
all when we're
really
young.
they really do know. They really do know. They said it then, and you're like, no, I'm never gonna be like that. Meanwhile, I'll say something and I'll go, oh my God, I just sounded like my mother.
Yeah, it's true. As I get older, I think of these like timeless sayings that we have that you've heard from people that you never paid much attention to, but
Right.
you realize over time that they're true.
It's true. It
And
really
like, you
is.
never call me, you never contact me, that kind of thing, right? We make fun
Right.
of it. When you're in that
Right.
position, you're like, yeah, that's exactly right. And it's probably been going on since the beginning of time.
Yeah. 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 So true. Oh my God.
So what's keeping you busy right now, if anything?
I am, knock wood, I am so busy right now.
Good for you.
It's good. We went from, right, we went from I'm not busy and like what is happening and all these things that are going on in the market, but we have been like listing. We have a lot of stuff coming in. A lot of people don't want it to really hit till after Easter
Yep.
because they feel with the big properties they want it to look good, but we
Yep.
have, I don't know, maybe 10 things coming in.
Good for you.
So
Great.
yeah, so and like all price ranges up to almost 6 million. So
Wow.
we're very happy that I'm very happy that I'm busy. Like I was in Florida doing, just a lot of the marketing from there because there wasn't really that much going on. I'd be coming back and forth.
Yep.
And then I said, I got to come back because I got to start getting into these houses, but no one wants to go on yet. But it is really, you could feel it. You could feel the energy, you could feel it. I
Yep.
feel how busy it is too. You could just feel like the vibe. So I
Yep.
think I hope it's going to be a good season now with everything going on with this commission thing. I don't know
Yep.
what that's going to do.
Right.
Um, I really don't. I think we need further conversation. Frankly, between you and I thought the meeting yesterday was a lot of fluff. You
Uh-huh.
know,
I see. Yep.
it was fluff. It was an absolute, I was very disappointed in it. I didn't think there was anything substantial there to
I see.
really dig in.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know have to show our value. We show our value every day. Like if you're not
Yep.
showing your value, you shouldn't be an agent. Like that's
Right.
nonsense.
Yep.
But what do we do in this situation with all the challenges, like with buyers, with agents that are not as good, and maybe now you have to like negotiate with them on every deal. Like I need more. Like I need more. I want to talk about that.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah, I need more. I mean, listing wise too, but my feeling is as a listing agent, I think I can present to my seller how they, so whatever we decide on the number that the selling agent has to get the buyer's agent has to get
Yep.
something. I'm okay with that. And I'm mostly a listing agent, so there's a little comfort in that. But
Yep.
when I do work with buyers, this nonsense, who wants to run around with these buyers and then I gotta like be nickel and dime on what the commission is. And over here, New York is very, very a real different situation because we never really did buy a broker here. We're still not
Right.
doing it. Like finally
Yep.
we're getting it a little bit, but the buyers are like, I'm not signing that. Like, this is
Yep.
New York. I don't want to sign
Yep.
anything.
Yep.
So it's very difficult. That
Yep.
whole situation is going to be very difficult. Yeah.
Yep. Got it. All right. Well, I'm sorry yesterday was no good, or it wasn't good for you at all. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, I didn't think that national meeting, I mean, look, it was informative, they talk and they're very positive and it's rah-rah compass and I'm a
Yep.
rah-rah compass person, so that's
Yep.
great. But I
Yep.
don't think it really got into the nitty-gritty of it. It was very, very surface.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, it's my opinion. And I spoke to a lot of agents when I went back to the office because we were staging a house and we took the call, my team, we took the call in this person's house. And we were like
Mm.
looking at each other. And then I got back to the office, there was a lot of agents like huddled here talking. And they're like, this is ridiculous. Like, we need more. This was, not great. So,
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
yeah.
All right. Well, listen, since it's just you and me, is there
Yeah,
anything
what
I
is
can do
going
to
on?
help
So
you
what's
today?
going on?
Or
Yeah, what's going on with these sessions? I know that somebody said in the chat just earlier while I was driving here, like I think it was Stacy, like, what are we doing? Because
yeah,
I see everybody's autopilot is on, and honestly, that's
right.
great to record it, but it's not great for the, interaction.
Yeah.
And as people go, are we doing this still? Are we not doing it? I
Yeah.
mean,
So that's something that we need to talk about the otter stuff. I mean, honestly, if everyone's just going to send in their otter, what's the point? And
yeah.
from my point of view, we can provide an otter from our side so that people can get what they want, but we still want them to be here. As for
Yeah,
the
well, at this
scheduling,
stage of the game, I think the point is all of our interaction together and figuring out what we're discussing and what's the topic, and our interaction together is what I think makes this group so magical,
right?
is that we all have different areas and we all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
And even if you can't bring something to the table, someone else's, and then you can use it and say, oh my God, that's really,
Right.
amazing.
Yep.
So, that's what I enjoy out of it.
Yep.
And I understand it's really busy. Like last week, I was called on, this listing, which is almost 6 million. And the only time she could do it was 9 o'clock Friday, 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, whatever the day was that I
Yep.
missed last week. And there was not, and I had to miss it, so you get it. People can't do it.
Yep.
Is the time wrong now again? Is everyone busy? Is it better if it's late in the day? Is it better early in the day? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
But
I
I
don't
think
know
we have
either.
to talk about that because, you know, obviously it's your time now for the hour, and
Right.
whoever jumped on this today, if it's just me, which is kind of weird, but okay.
I agree. Usually we're getting about 6 to 10 people for the calls these days, which I'd like to do more. And honestly, when people show up, you have those good conversations. When people don't, you miss the opportunity. And I
Yeah,
understand people are busy. That's going to happen. But
yeah.
yes, for now the conversations are going to continue on the regular schedule. I sent a message back to Stacy a few minutes ago saying, yeah, we're still continuing. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
think everybody was kind of in the private little chats and stuff. Everyone was like, we really didn't hear, like, even when we started, like, what's happening? What's the group? What's going on? I
yeah,
think, even though I think this group doesn't like a lot of direction because we like to just interact, I think
right.
we need a little direction on what like is happening. And
Yeah,
is this the time? Is everybody good with this? Do we still want to do it?
yeah.
So
Yep, I understand. Well, maybe it's time for us to connect with some more people again. But yes, we are planning the next iteration of the program, and we're going to roll it out to everybody as soon as it's ready. And so,
okay.
we'll have a couple more calls for the next couple of months until we're ready to launch that.
Okay.
Feel free to give any feedback to Chirag, but I'll think about everything you've said here too. We
Yeah.
certainly want to make sure that it's providing value to everybody. And, we also understand that the magic of this great group is when people are together talking about stuff. You can't get
Exactly.
a better brain trust than what's on in these groups.
It's really interesting because I've heard so much over the course of our time that even if there isn't a quote unquote set topic, when we get together and someone says, let's talk about this, and it's always so great. Like, it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite things about the group. you know,
Yep.
especially for me, and my team has now, you know, been changing and it's much smaller.
Yep.
You know, Michael's not doing this now full
Mhm.
time.
Right.
And you know, I had to do a little revamping, and we're really just us back to our small little group. So the team building and all of that is not something I'm not really sure that I want to do that. You know,
Yep. Yep.
I kind of like it right now for this, and the market. I wanted the market to pick up a little bit because I don't need to add another person that whatever. I don't need it right now. I mean, I
Yep.
need business, but right now I don't need another person to train. You know, it's just
Yep.
it's not something I want to do at this moment.
Yep. For
So, yeah. So for me, when we just talk about growing the team, I like it because I think about, well, do I want to do that? But I don't like it all the time because it doesn't really impact
Yep.
me.
Yep.
You know, but
Got it.
I like what's going on in the market. How are you doing this? How are you going into other areas? How are you getting
Yep.
business? What's your business like? You know, are you busy? Are you not busy? Are you doing
Yep.
anything different than in marketing your home? You know,
Yep.
like the last one I was on, we were talking about that book, and I actually had the book, and I said I was going to explore it, and I thought I would talk about that today that I got
Mhm.
in Florida, but the person that published that, they only do Florida. So
I
I
see.
wanted to like
Yep.
talk to the group and say, does anybody have anybody, you know, that,
Yep.
and I have it here too. I have like a sample of it. It's so good.
Mhm.
But like things like that that you just don't get, like
Yep.
we're not competing with each other, you know, and that's the beauty of this. Like we can take what each other does because we're not competing.
Right.
So,
Correct. Yep. Well,
you know,
that's
and so
strong.
that's for me what I'm looking for.
Yep.
By the way, who do you recommend for Charleston? Brad Poole is in Charleston, is he?
Yeah, I think Brad is in Charleston. Hold on. Let
Oh,
me see.
fantastic. I'll reach out to him
Yeah,
then.
let me double
I need
check.
some I need something in
Brad's
Charleston.
Atlanta.
Hey, look who's on.
Brad's Atlanta, right? Hey.
Oh, Brad's Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Look who's on, my buddy bud.
Hey,
There's Tommy. Hey,
Hi.
Tommy.
how are
Hey,
y'all?
hey, Tommy.
I'm
How are
gonna
you?
switch over to my computer. This is on my phone now, so I might jump off for a second. But
Okay. Yeah, I need someone in Charleston if anybody has a recommendation.
All right. Let me see if I can find one.
you know what? I do have one that I met at the music fest.
Oh,
I've
you
got-
do?
Yeah. I'll let me get the information.
Yeah,
to
you could just text it to me.
Okay.
That would be great. I have like a developer, and you know, I got like a $12 million price tag. So
Oh dang.
it's
Nice.
a nice referral.
Very nice.
A nice
If
referral.
they were all that, right?
Oh God, I wish.
Yeah.
Tommy, how was the music festival? I didn't see anything on it. But
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah.
was it awesome? I'm so sorry I missed it.
That's next year. Next year.
I had like I had so many people coming down, and I was in Florida, and I had made dates for them, and you know, and then I was, you know, I had also booked earlier, like when I was going to go to some of the Florida offices. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to rearrange this whole thing, and it just didn't work.
Oh, that's all right. It was a good time. I think
It was a good time.
everyone really had a good time. So
That's great.
I think it was a hit.
Sounds great. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna switch over here.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna just keep that. That's fine. Good. How many people are on? Can't
No,
see.
that's
It.
Just
it.
two of you.
It's us.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's just us and Otter.
Okay, that's what I was looking. Yeah, okay. Cool. Awesome.
So, given it's just the three of us, I'm happy to use this time in whatever way makes sense to the two of you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
No,
What-
I mean, I thought there might be more people, so I'm kind of on the spot here.
Well, Tommy, you know what? I saw your video, which was really good about what's going down with the commission thing. And I kind of wanted to talk about that today because I thought I was just telling David that I thought you know, did you have that? Was it national, that meeting yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The-
Well, between you and I just thought it was fluff. I didn't like it.
I mean,
I mean, I liked it, but I didn't think it was what everybody wanted to hear. you
And
know, that was the feedback I got up here.
and Courtney Smith, I mean, I just don't think she's the right person to be, directing that. Not that nothing against her. It just, I don't know. I agree 100%. I had my monthly team meeting today, and that's what obviously we're going to talk about.
Right.
But it is going to be different. I think right now there's so much unknown that it's kind of a waste of time to dissect the what if this happens and what if this happens, because we don't really know. And
We
I'm
don't even
still,
know if it's getting passed.
no, it hasn't even been passed. And what my big questions are, okay, if it does get passed, so if I'm working with a buyer and they sign a buyer rep agreement, do I have a percentage in there that they're agreeing to? So let's say that's 2%. Say that's 2%. But then what if I show them a house and that they're only offering 1%? So I assume I'll make the 1% off the seller and then another 1% off the buyer if they've signed that buyer rep agreement. But what if that house is offering 3%?
Right.
And
Right.
then this is going to be the biggest issue, and it's going to be an ethical issue. What if you show 3 homes and they're all, whatever, $1 million, $1 million. One seller's offering 3%, one's offering a $5,000 flat fee, and the other one's offering 1%. Like, there's going to be steering, and
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to.
For sure. And the other thing is, they were talking about, you have to negotiate if you're working with the buyer. Like, I do a lot of more listing than with buyers, but I do work with a fair share of buyers. So you're working with buyers, and they're saying that, well, you have to negotiate each time you're going to make an appointment on a house. You're gonna have to negotiate what you're getting from that listing agent. Do you think we are gonna have time?
Every house, right? Yep.
And you go out, you could be going out with 4 buyers a weekend, plus doing the open house. Maybe you're showing them 3 houses at a clip. Do you think we're gonna have time to do this? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's there's a lot of unknown, and I know today, like, my meeting starts in an hour, and everyone's going to be like, "Well, what if this and this and that?" And it's almost like, guys, we just got to wait, because there's so many what if angles.
Right.
Like, we don't. Yesterday, I tried to touch on some just key points. Yes, it is going to eliminate a lot of people in the business, which is a good thing.
Yes, I agree with you, and I like that.
And
I like that.
Kind of Chirag and David have taught the last year or so. Like, if you've got to learn, you've got to understand what value you bring, and you've got to learn how to, pitch that to your client. Because if you do have value, it's going to make it a lot easier. But if you're just opening doors,
Right.
And I very what's the word? Non-popular opinion, and I've been saying it for 3 years, and it's kind of scary, because this makes it even more realistic. Now, I don't think the buyer agent is going away altogether, but I think you're going to see a lot of people going directly to the listing agent. I
just said this in my meeting.
I think it's going to be one agent in transactions moving forward. Now, there will always be buyer agents to some point. They'll never go fully away, but I think the business, and I saw it a little bit during COVID when it was hectic. So I would do an open house, and buyers would come to me and go, "Look, you have a big team. That must mean you have market share. You can find me a deal. I don't need an agent. I will work with you."
I know. Me too.
And
I had the same thing.
that's what the industry is going to, and that's why listings have always been king, and listings are the most important thing. Like,
it's always been. And you know something, it's interesting because I've been saying this. I just said this. I said two things are going to happen. When Zillow came to be, like, I'm doing this a long time. So when I started real estate, there was no, believe it or not, there was no Zillow.
yeah,
And there was just, it was only a couple of years when I got my license that MLS was even a thing. Like, you know, they had a big book back in the day, you know, like it was a
Right.
whole, so
I
you
remember,
had
yeah, sure.
MLS and there was no Zillow. So everybody came to the listing agent. And I remember at my first company, I was there for like 16 years, and they used to do all our stats. And I remember the last year I was there, this was before Zillow, I sold 87% of my own listings. I mean, that's monstrous.
Wow.
Monstrous. Okay. But those were those years. It was unbelievable, you know, 03, 04, 05.
yeah.
So,
I think
so now with Zillow, when Zillow let you be the only agent on the listing, they were
Mhm.
still coming to the listing agent. Once Zillow did away with that program, which was some years now, then all these agents are showing up, meeting them at the front door. They never even met these buyers because
Yeah.
they're buying those leads. And that's when we lost a lot of business because they had no idea that they weren't getting the listing agent. They were just calling the agent on the bottom, call for an appointment. They had not, some of them don't even know. So we lost a lot. So I said the same thing, Tommy. I said, you know what? I think this is going to make it all back to listing agents getting like the double deal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the thing we have in New York, like you guys always do buy a rep or buy a broker or whatever you call it down there. We never do it here. It's not a thing. And now they've been forcing this buyer broker on us for the last couple of months. And like the buyers here in New York, if you can only imagine, they're like, I'm not paying your commission.
Yeah.
And so we would say, listen, they offer it. Don't worry about it. In most cases, they offer it. So really it's coming out of the offer. They still, most of them, do you know, I'm embarrassed to say this. I think I've signed 2 buyer brokers in my entire career.
Yeah.
And I
So-
worked with a lot of buyers. They don't sign
We
it.
we have them here, and it's so Compass requires it with the paperwork, but you know the way they teach us, we're supposed to have it signed before we go show, and I don't. But I've been burned before, like
I don't either, Tommy. If I know them and I feel like, because most of my business is referral, I'm like, all right, I need this paperwork now, sign it. Like they don't want to pay. They don't want to think they're paying.
transaction. Like I send it to them after we have the house under contract and like are going through the inspections and everything. Then they sign it. Now, all ours says is if the seller does not pay the commission, you would pay it. And people give kickback on it, but most are, I'm like, look, it's never happened. It's, you know, and it hadn't, but now.
But now it's going to
Yeah,
happen. Yeah, now it's going to happen.
Buyer, if you're my buyer and I go to you and say, okay, for my services, you're going to pay me 3%. I don't know if you're going to have to. The seller might. It just depends on which home. What's that? What are you going to do? You're going to start going directly to the listing agents. Like that's what's going to happen. So, unless
I agree. I think that's going to happen.
value proposition built out and people, you know, they want to work with you and they know you're going to add value and you're going to provide a service. And a lot of us can do that. But 75% of these people in the business, I think they're toast.
Yeah, I know. I know. I think big changes are coming. I've been saying it for a long time. I'm like, I think big changes are coming anyway, because let's face it, the way real estate is set up is really antiquated and it hasn't had change in a long time. The only thing that is upsetting to me is all the money that we send to NAR and support and pay. What are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah.
So
what are they doing? And how did we get to this commission thing? Like someone just sent me a link yesterday about the attorney that started this. So let me ask you something. If I'm going to send you both this article, it's really fascinating how much the attorneys are making off of this.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yes.
And how come no one's looking at the attorneys? And how come you could buy a jar of peanut butter in this store and they can charge X, and you can go into a specialty store and you pay a third more and you go, what are they, crazy? And no one is saying that there's got to be a price, whatever, on any of these things.
Yeah. So
Food, attorneys, goods.
here's my other thought. Do you guys do you handle leases at all? And
Yeah, I do.
Is there, so here, this is what I think it might come to as well, like a hybrid version. So it might be different for you guys, but a lease here is generally the commission is 1 month's rent, basically.
Same here.
$6,000 a month lease, right? It's $6,000, and then the listing agent decides how that's spread to the person representing the buyer. So it's usually never 50-50 though. It's usually like 60-40 or 70-30. I've even seen it 75-25.
Oh, really? Wow. Ours is always
So
50-50.
I think that could be kind of what we see. So you meet with a seller and there's going to be a negotiated amount. So let's say that's 4 or 5%, whatever that is. And then it's going to be up to the listing agent to go, okay, I will keep 65% and the buyer agent will keep 35%. I don't know. It's there's a lot of unknown. So I mean,
and it can go both ways, because it could mean if you don't give enough, that buyer's agent is taking them somewhere else. And then you're going to have a hard time. Look, it's not going to be these easy times that we've been having now. Like, it's going to change at some point. Right now we're in the driver's seat. No, still low inventory. A house comes on. If you don't sell it in the weekend, you're like, oh my God. Well, how about the days when you would renewing the listing after 6 months because it didn't sell? Like that was what it was before COVID. They didn't sell in a day, in a week, in a month. They sold in 6 months, 5 months, 7 months.
That's why I think this commission thing, that's why it's been polarized, because, especially like in my market, like before COVID, 750,000 was considered luxury. So 750,000, well, now 3 million is luxury. $750,000 homes 6 years ago used to take 6 months to sell. Now they take 30 seconds.
Right.
Same with the $2.5 million home. So someone goes and lists a $2.5 million home, they get multiple offers, they're making 70 grand. Both, the buyer's making 70, they can do 4 of those a month. And that's how I think it's come to the fact that, these agents are making way too much money. So I don't disagree. I mean, it's just, it's changed, but when it slows down, what does that look like?
Well, that's a very good point. So everybody's looking at it in this COVID-esque climate, and it's never been the COVID-esque climate. We've had maybe 4 years of this. Yep. But which is great, but it will go back, and rates are crawling up, and the minute inventory starts to get to normal levels again, it's going to be what I'm working 6 months and this is what I'm making. It's not going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Things look one way in the current environment, but you're right. In a couple of years from now, when it swings back, it could look very different. Hey, Tracy, wanted to make sure you're having a chance to say hello here. Hey, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Sorry, I have a standing appointment every Tuesday at 8:30 to 9:30, so I can never make the first half.
No worries. You have any thoughts about any of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think where it's going to be difficult for us is just the extra step of trying to find out what I'm getting paid before I take somebody out to see something.
Yeah.
And for my lower end buyers, if it's 0 commission, am I still taking them in there? I mean, they don't have the money to pay me. I mean, they're paying me indirectly, but they don't really have the money to directly pay me. Yeah. So like, what do you do with VA?
Yep. It's going to be interesting. And we were talking earlier before you got on, like, there's so many unknowns right now that it's almost not worth contemplating.
Worrying about?
I'm about to have I actually have to run here in a minute, but I've got my monthly team meeting here in an hour, and I know all the team is going to be like, well, what if this? What if this? And it's like, I don't know yet. Like, we don't know. Like, we don't have any context on this. It's just kind of, hey, this is what's probably going to happen. So
If it doesn't get
Yeah.
passed, it'll change everything, but that's the whole thing. Will it get passed? Who knows?
Yeah.
I do feel like it's one of those things I can't worry about every conceivable way this could play out. I just have to deal with what I'm dealing with now.
exactly. I already have, I'm one of the builders I work with, higher end builders. They're already asking me, like, hey, well, we don't want to list it. And we're going to list in like 2 weeks. And they're like, we're not listing at 3%. We're not paying the buyer agent 3%.
Oh, they are.
And here that is still like a insult. Like, it's getting to the point where it's not, but they heard this news, and it's a $5 million listing. So
Tommy, what do you say to them? What do you say to these builders?
well, fortunately, up until now, it hasn't been a tough decision, because they know, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, if you're not offering 3%, the house isn't going to get shown.
Well,
But
that's what I say to my sellers. I'm like, look, yeah, you could pay them nothing, but you're going to be sitting here. So what good is that going to do you?
But I think with this new ruling, if it goes through, that will slowly change. Now, I know, like, my team, we're on a group chat, and it got real busy here the last couple of weeks, and 4 or 5 of them were out showing all this past weekend. And they said at least 50% of the homes they showed all said 2.5 or 2% on the buy. And that doesn't happen here. Like, that is not a thing. So it's happening, it's slowly happening. And I think, and here's different, because our price point used to be so low compared to the rest of the US, and it skyrocketed. So
but your commissions there are generally high.
I hate to agree with it, but, like, I understand why on a $5 million listing, you shouldn't get 3%. Like, I get it. That's a lot of freaking money, but it's also, I don't know, here it's just, that hasn't ever been a thing. So how does that transition look? And then how does that affect other agents from not showing the property? Because at some point they're just going to be like, well, I still am going to show it,
Wasn't
And you
that the
guys
whole
are talking.
point?
No, sorry, go ahead,
Sorry,
Tracy.
wasn't that the whole point of this thing, is that they didn't want agents steering people away from low commissioned homes, and yet now we're going to hide the commission?
Well, and that's right before you got on. That's what we were talking about. Like, imagine in a year from now, if you have a buyer, and they don't want to pay commission, and you have 3 homes you show them. They're all million, whatever. They could be any price. Let's just say they're $1 million. And home 1 is offering 3%. Home 2 is offering $5,000 flat fee, and home 3 is offering nothing. You don't think there's going to be steering there with the agent? I mean, it's $30,000 or nothing. Like, so how do they monitor that? So
I don't know. And what about I heard something about, we're apparently not allowed to show a home unless we have a buyer's representation agreement signed.
That's what's coming. Like, it's gonna legally be needed, apparently. So, like,
I'm okay with that, but who's policing it? Am I, like, every time you show my house, I go, hey, Tommy, can you send me your buyer's agency agreement?
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. I don't care.
We have them here in Texas, but they're not mandatory. Compass requires them to be turned in at some point before the closing. So, like, I don't ever do one, because Fran and I were talking about this, like, then it makes your client feel like a transaction. Like, I give them after we're under contract and we're headed to the closing, like, hey, this is a document Compass requires. It just protects me, blah, blah, blah. and they sign it. But now, you know, you're right, Tracy. I don't know how they monitor that.
I don't know how they monitor it, and I don't know how these buyers, because it will say in that contract, if the, you know, seller's not paying the commission, they're gonna be responsible. And I don't know about in your areas, but in my area, there's gonna be a lot of pushback for that.
Well, and the funny thing yesterday on that call, which makes no sense, they were like, you can still advertise what you're willing to pay all over your social media.
Yeah.
And on your, like, what are we, a used car lot? Like, hey,
It was
Yeah, I'm not-
terrible.
come buy this home. I'm going to
It
give
was
you,
a terrible, it was terrible. The whole thing was terrible.
like, that makes no, I'm not putting how much I'm paying to agents on my marketing.
Exactly. Right.
No. So
Now,
I don't
what
know if that-
they did say one thing though that I thought was interesting in that whole entire session. So they said you can't put what you're paying where it says, you know, broker's agent or buyer's agent, or you know, where we fill out whatever the percentage is, but you can put it in the remarks.
yeah,
So what's the difference? Like, what are we-
Exactly.
I'm moving it from this tab to that tab?
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Who
Well,
cares?
because the consumer client can't see it in private remarks, only the agent can. But if it's
Right.
But-
now where it's at, the people
I
can
guess
see.
it's in broker remarks you can put it, right? I think it was. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I gotta check that. But it was in remarks. But the thing is, if it's in remarks, okay, and it goes to Zillow and all these sites, they don't see that, but it's so stupid. It's the same damn thing.
I know.
Mhm.
Hey guys, I got to jump off because I'm getting blown up to get this meeting.
It
Great.
was good to see you.
You guys, I'll send you
Thanks,
that.
Tommy. See you.
Yeah, would you send me that referral?
Awesome. All right, guys.
Thanks. Bye,
There.
Tommy.
Bye, Tommy.
Tommy,
Oh, my
ladies.
God.
sounds like there's a whole lot of stuff happening that nobody has any real insight on. There's so many questions to consider right now, and there isn't much you can do. You know, obviously, you know, from a leadership point of view, you got to focus on what you can control. That's one. And two, you have to have some kind of an information gathering capacity to stay abreast of whatever develops, because we don't know how fast things are going to resolve. And, you know, you're talking about certain things that are upmarket impacts, down market impacts, you know, stuff, putting things into this field or that field on the paperwork. I mean, all that stuff is going to play out over time in ways that you can't predict for sure. And so
Yeah.
we want to make sure we're all listening and sharing information in the way that we can all benefit
It's gonna be an
Yeah.
interesting time.
for sure.
At least it's not right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Like
Tracy, are you
July is a
getting
good
busy
time to roll
now?
that up.
Are you getting
Yes.
busy now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. It will slow down a little bit next week because of spring break,
yeah,
like public school spring break. It slows down a little bit, like a little less during Catholic spring break.
Hmm.
But that's why I'm trying to get my buyers. I'm like, during spring break, there's less buyers here. They're busy, they're on vacation. I mean,
yeah.
so I'm like, next week will be a good week to be around and to make an offer. But I had clients that made an offer on a house this weekend. They had 16 offers.
Wow.
It's insane. I know. I
Yeah.
know. I
Just
put something on. I put something on. Sunday was the first show. They're just, all the offers are just coming in. That's it. It's like done. It's over ask already, done.
Well,
Yeah.
Fran, 5 years from today, you're going to be sitting there. We're all going to be sitting here saying, "Oh my God, remember when?"
I think I think the industry is in for a big change. I've been feeling it for a long time. I do. I think it is. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I think it's gonna be a big
Mhm.
change.
Well, you were talking before about how when things have changed in your career and how you've seen so much change, and you know,
And
there's no
look at
reason
what that
people
was,
won't
right.
continue to do so, right?
Yeah, but I agree with Tommy, and I actually said it in my last meeting. I said the only good thing I see coming out of this is back before Zillow, the buyers used to come to the listing agent. And I think that if you can really be a listing agent, that's always been the way to go anyway. But I think that the buyers are going to try with all of this to go right to the listing agent. I think they're not going to want to deal with the buyer broker. They're going to cut it out. They're going to want to make a deal. And they're going to go to the listing agent. I do think that's going to happen. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Interesting times. What's the Chinese proverb? May you live during interesting times.
Yep. Well, We're about to go there.
For
Yeah.
sure.
We're about to go there.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
So,
listen, ladies, is there anything else you'd like to talk about today, or is it better for you guys to get back to what you were in the middle of?
Better for me to go.
yeah, I'm heading into a meeting, so that few extra minutes will help me and my marketing meeting. And you know, David, you and I spoke about where this is going, and Tracy, we were
Yep.
just talking about like, where's the group going? You know, what's the agenda? You know, if people are gonna just put the autopilot on, it doesn't obviously have the same effect. So what's going on, you know?
And what do we find out?
Yeah.
So we're working on it right now, and you know, I'm taking Fran's input. I'm happy to get input from you and from anybody else too. You know, there's always been this balance between structure and flexibility. You know, structure provides us some kind of a roadmap, some kind of clear expectations. On the other hand, things come up all the time, and so we want to not be locked into something that's so strict that we can't talk about something that becomes really important to everybody, you know, at a moment in time. And so we certainly have deviated in the past from some planned conversations that we had set up ahead of time. Like when we first started this, you may recall we had actually 12 monthly topics.
Yeah.
Things happen, you know, things in the marketplace happened, and it was much more front of mind for everybody to talk about certain things at certain times. And so we deviated from some of that. So it's something we need to continue to think about and make sure that people are talking about things that are valuable to them, not just in the moment, but, you know, a mixture of things that everybody finds value in.
David, I have a bit of a suggestion. I don't know if it'll
Yeah.
work, but maybe it's possible with this group, since we all really have gotten to know each other. Like maybe the Friday before the meeting or whatever, enough time that it gives you guys, you know, we could send you a text or an email saying, I'd like to discuss this.
Yeah.
Like a topic that we're going through. You know, maybe everybody is saying this commission thing. Maybe someone's saying, you know, I want to talk about some new marketing ideas. Like, and if you get an idea of all of this stuff, and even if it's not every week, because I would imagine there'd be so many things that it would fill more than one session.
Yeah.
And then it kind of gives everybody a chance to ask what they need. So when we do the sessions, like Tracy, before you got on, I was saying, like, I'm not a big team. So every time we talk about team building, yeah, I get a little out of it, but I don't, it doesn't impact me. I know you're the same. You know, I know Andrea's the same. You know, there's a few of us that don't. Tracy Clinton is, well, now Tracy built her team a little bit, but there's a few of us that don't have these big teams. So as much as I like to sit and listen to it and take little nuggets, it's, you know, it's not that important to me.
Yeah. Well,
But
one
maybe
of our,
if everybody weighs in every week and just sends, you know, you could just send a little email, you know, here's a topic, I'd like to discuss this, or I'd like to discuss that, and we could kind of see where it is. I think this group is great when we're just talking about stuff, when we're talking about things that impact all of us, because if it impacts you, Tracy, chances are there's some form of that that's impacting me, and so and so and so and so and so and so. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I'd like to see that.
all right. Thanks for that. Yep. Okay. Got it. Well, listen, we're always open to anybody's input at any time. So, you know, if you have more thoughts, text me, text Chirag, send us an email, whatever, let us know. We're happy to incorporate that while we're thinking through, you know, the next iteration of the plan.
Great.
So thanks for the input. Yeah.
My pleasure. Well,
all right, then. Thank you both very much.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Certainly let me know if there's anything else that
we
comes
will.
up, and we'll
Thanks,
talk again
David.
soon.
Okay, Tracy,
thank you,
good to
guys.
see you. Thanks,
All right.
David.
Good to
Have a
see
great
you.
week, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.